You know, as we all find our rhythm in this new year, there are some people who just find it difficult to get back on track, and it can be due to addiction issues. So if you're dealing with a loved one who's facing this challenge, then you know it's something that affects the entire family.
It's also something that can cause everyone to feel hopeless and isolated. So is an intervention the answer? We see a lot of shows about this on TV, and if yes, what steps do you take to put it in motion? Well, thankfully, we have Dr. Robb Kelly here to tell us more. You know, we hear a lot about interventions. There are big shows, and you and I were talking about this earlier. Everyone has someone in their life that's dealing with substance abuse issues, correct?
They do, and until you actually speak to these people, you don't realize how vast this is. It's amazing. Everybody knows somebody. And my biggest saying is that if you don't know anybody, it's probably you.
Oh, wow.
Because alcohol and drugs, prescription drugs, street drugs, big problem. So we've got to come down to how do we save that person? There's a defining line between being an alcoholic, an addict, and somebody who uses recreational drugs for the weekend. There's a fine line. What do we do with the alcoholic or addict who's suffering? Because here's the key. I'm going to say this once, but this is the golden key. The person who's doing it is the last person to know they have a problem.
Sure.
So what we look at is we want to, this is what we do at Robb Kelly Recovery Group, we want to educate the family. You know, what do we look for? When we see the signs, what do we do?
And what are some signs?
Some of the signs are being unkempt, not turning up for certain occasions, like family occasions, missing birthdays, family meetings, being late, anything that's out of character for the person. That's the first sign to look for. It's amazing. Once you look for it, once you understand these signs, you can spot it well before.
But then a lot of people are what you call functional addicts, right? They can be doing all of those things and still be addicted to these substances.
I was a functioning alcoholic and addict for 10 years. Yeah, and we hide it very well, by the way. You know, my parents, my girlfriend, my wife, whoever it was at the time, had no idea. But I knew there was something wrong. I found out later on in life that everybody knew there was something wrong, but they couldn't put their finger on it. What it was is I was secretly drinking and taking drugs. And that's what we're here today to look out for. How does a family look out, you know, see this in their loved one? And it's usually a son or daughter. That's where we get most of our direction, is looking for family members who are suffering. And an intervention is an amazing way to take that person from where they are, which is like the den of addiction, into a safe environment to get help. Because without help, it's a very, very dangerous disease.
And I want to talk about an intervention for a moment, because while it seems a logical step that your family members, the people who are closest to you, are worried about you and in a very loving way want to confront you as a group, isn't there something to be said for if the addict is not ready to stop the behavior? Do they then start to resent the people who've come together to do the intervention?
I mean, we've seen that a couple of times. I mean, we see the intervention programs on TV, and it all looks great. Within an hour, they save somebody, and away they go. It doesn't always go that. I mean, it's very important for us, anyway, when we do an intervention, to meet with the family first, to find out exactly where the person who's suffering, where is he in life, what's his mental capabilities, what's his thought pattern about it. Does he think he has a problem? We turn down, and I'm saying yes, we turn down 80% of people that come to us because they're not ready. If the person isn't ready, you're wasting your time with the intervention.
And doesn't the family have to be ready to a certain extent? Because if you have an alcoholic in the family, you want to you do an intervention, you want to send them to rehab, but then every Saturday night people are bringing over wine and beer and drinking. That's a problem.
Family education. The family suffers from this disease as well, whether they think they do or not. It's a family disease, but it's also a family recovery. But you need to know what steps to take. But yes, the family needs to buy into an intervention. And there are certain procedures. You know, we have 2 or 3 meetings with the family before we get to the actual intervention to say, look, guys, these are the guidelines. You know, from the moment and you see it on TV, from the moment the addict or alcoholic walks into the room, it looks unscripted. It's not. Everything in that room we have to own, because there's 1,000 things that go wrong, and we're talking about somebody's life, especially after the holiday season where everybody's drinking, and unfortunately a lot of people are taking drugs and prescription drugs. You know, and it's the party time. Coming to the end of January, party time is running out.
So you can't necessarily get away with it, right? It's more noticeable if you're doing it.
Correct.
Now, when the addict is in recovery, are there certain behaviors that they'll start exhibiting that it's being close to them, you might start taking personally, but you need to understand that if they can't act out through their addiction, then they have to act out somehow. There has to be some outlet for it. And
Definitely.
oftentimes it could be a number of things: moodiness, taking the addiction to drugs and alcohol and changing it to a different addiction, shopping, whatever.
Definitely, and you know, I don't know one person that's sought help and thought, okay, I'm ready now, let's do this deal.
Right.
Never comes. So yeah, there are mood swings, there are resentments in the early days, and it's only when one can clear one's head to finally realize, and I hear this 1,000 times of families when we work with families, I've got my old son back, or I've got my old daughter back. And it's that first 4 weeks of resentment, mood swings, because they're coming off a substance that physically and mentally changes the way they act. We're taking that away and expecting the person to act normally. Isn't going to happen.
Right.
So once them signs, they exhibit them signs, go away and they realise that they're getting well, they go back. It's kind of like if they've been using and drinking for 10 years, they kind of go back 10 years.
Yeah.
And they act out as if they was 20 again. And they're more loving and caring. I mean, I have a great saying in the recovery industry: the tongue is the most powerful tool that we can possess. And unfortunately, when I was a drinking alcoholic and a drug-taking addict, I was very poisonous with what I said.
Right.
Today, I'm very careful with what I say.
It's important. Well, we talked about words earlier
Yeah.
today. All right, for more details on how to deal with addiction, free help and advice is available at robbkelly.com. Such
Thanks
great
for being
information.
here, Dr.
Absolutely,
Kelly.
really, really good information.
Okay, when we come back, we are in the Troubadour, Texas listening room with country crooner Ray Johnston. Stick with us.
You're one for the road.